Welcome into the Skinny Podcast. It's the weekly potpourri edition. I'm Richard Skinner, Local12.com digital sports columnist and editor with Rick Boring. As always, it's presented by Blake, the attorney Maislin. We've got some Bengals to get into. We've got some Reds to get into and some Ask Skinny Anything and whatever else fancies our way. Rick, I know we're going to talk some Reds, but my God, they're just boring.
It is. And the part that makes it so boring, Skinny, is it feels like it is a carbon copy of last year.
Yes.
And so much so that, it's even a little worse than last year. I went back and I was like, this feels like we're in the exact same spot. So where were we at last year with this team when we had this podcast? It was a day later at this time last year. It was on June 6th when we recorded. I went back and looked. The Reds today are 30-33. Last year when we had this podcast, they were 29-33. And do you know what the conversation was that we were having at this time last year?
How boring they were.
Well, they had just won 4 out of their last 5, and we were questioning, had they saved their season just in time?
Yeah, the answer was no, apparently.
The answer was no, apparently, but that's part of why this is so boring this year, I think, because we already saw this play out. Like, even if they win a handful of games over the next couple of weeks, we already know how this ends.
I had to coach a summer league game a couple nights ago, and I got in the car and listened to the 9th inning when the 3 batters that came up were one was worse than the next, and it ended with Garrett Hampson, who shouldn't even be on a major league roster, striking out. And then yesterday I'm driving to go to basketball, and I hear the lineup for the afternoon game. And the bottom 4 in the order were Connor Joe, Benson. No, I think Connor Joe, Trevino, Benson, and Matt McClain. And I'm like, you can't win with that. I mean, Connor Joe got 6th in a big league lineup.
Shout out to Connor Joe. He's going to make his Ask Skinny Anything debut today, later on in the show.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we got a question about Connor Joe for you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned the Reds are 30-33, 4th in NL Central, 9.5 games back to the Cubs. They just lost back-to-back series to the Cubs and Brewers. And then, Skinny, it feels like the season kind of hit its low point with the Hunter Green injury news. You already had the Austin Hayes injury going on. They signed Wade Miley to take Hunter Green's spot in the rotation, which in some ways, to me, I don't know if you felt this way, it almost just felt like you're waving the white flag on the season a little bit. Yeah, if that's the guy you're going to, it's kind of just like, well, he can get us through.
Well, luckily yesterday, I wasn't able to place a wager on this because I was so busy. But when I saw the total of 9 and I heard that lineup, I'm like, oh, man, that screams under. And all day it was an under until good old Wade Miley came in and gave up 4 in the 9th to take it to a 9-1 final. It went over by a run. So thank you, Wade.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I heard his interview. Jim Kelch, actually, my broadcast partner, did a great interview with him that they've been replaying. I heard it on Lance McAllister's show. All that stuff sounds cool. It's great that Wade Miley's trying to get back and he wants his kid to see him play and all that stuff. But anyone who kind of knew this story knew it's probably just not going to work out. And then you see him actually pitch yesterday, and it looked like a guy it just probably doesn't have it anymore.
So I would say this, for the rest of this season, when CES gets back healthy, whenever that may be, he's still rehabbing, I just say throw those kids out there every day, let them sink or swim, and come the end of this season, figure out where you're at, and if you have to reboot this again for the billionth time, and reboot it correctly, and probably reboot it with somebody else doing the rebooting.
Okay, well, it's interesting you brought that up, because an Ask Any Anything question we got that I figured we could just talk about during this segment, since there's not a lot of interesting topics around the Reds, was, do you think that the Reds should be trying hard to trade Elly De La Cruz for whatever crop of prospects they can get right now, as opposed to waiting until the last minute, getting almost nothing in 2028 or 2029? And they also added in, what if he never develops into the superstar and his stock kind of starts to drop over the next couple of seasons?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think his stock's going to drop. I don't think he goes backward. I don't think he regresses. I do question, will he blossom into the superstar, he's been labeled to eventually be.
But that's some of his stock right now, right? Is there still, we still believe he is going to be like the best shortstop in baseball potentially.
Yeah, I'm still of the ilk that he is one of the cornerstone pieces you continue to build around. I do. I get the question, because you're never going to be able to sign him long term when it comes to the free agency period of time. I would kick this can a couple of years down the road. I wouldn't do it yet. It's an interesting question. I'm not going to scoff at the question, because I think it is an interesting question, because it is I mean, we've seen some teams, Washington got out from underneath Juan Soto and got a pretty good bag in return. You've seen this before where you're like, gosh, they're trading that guy when they can control him and he's still young and budding and all that stuff. I get it, but I just don't know what else you got to hang on to at the moment.
Well, I think that's absolutely correct. But to the point that you just brought up, at some point, does this just start looking like you need to blow this up and rebuild it all again? And if that's the case, then who can get you more in that regard than Elly De La Cruz right now?
Yeah, I don't know how you sell that to the fan base. Fan base is already fed up with you, and you get rid of whatever interesting pieces you have, even if it may be the right baseball move in theory. I don't think fans want to wait 3 years for returns on that. I don't see it. I get it. Yeah, it's a great question. I'm keeping him as long as I can keep him. And I still think if he does butt into that star that you expect him to come, then, you do get a huge haul at the last minute trade possibilities for him in a few years.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's an absolute non-starter for that reason. The Reds just aren't going to part with a guy who puts butts in the seats, makes them marketable without them even winning games. Like, Elly's all they have from a PR standpoint right now. I don't think they would do anything that would get rid of him a day earlier than they have to. And I would, like, Hunter Green's not in that same mold, but those are, in my opinion, the two guys that they have right now. Those are the only two guys that feel like they are definites, going to be around, and they're going to try to build around those two.
So where does the finger of blame go, and how do you fix this? I mean, the 2023 excitement was palpable, man. It was real. And it felt like, man, they're just scratching the surface, and where can they go with this? Just add a piece here and a piece there. Well, they obviously haven't added a piece here or a piece there. They've stuck their foot in the ground and their head in the sand and not done anything in that regard. But who do we blame? And how do you it's easy to say who do you blame, but how do you fix it?
Well, a lot of it is just the nature of the sport, right? And that's why Major League Baseball is so frustrating, because you do just have salary cap issues and inequalities within the sport that make it hard for a team like the Reds to compete. I think it feels like, to me, the Reds are kind of stuck in the cycle of trying to be consistently good, and at best that nets you like third or fourth in the NL Central. And in reality, it feels like for teams in their market, kind of the old Marlins strategy of you play for a good cycle every 4 or 5 years where you make your run, then you blow it all up.
But this was supposed to be the good cycle with what you got. So
but they never really fully went all in, right, Skinny? It felt like they tried to do it sustainable. They were trying to do it the right way and build long term. And it's like, you can't do that as the Reds. You just have to mortgage off your future, go all in for a season or two, and hope it works out. Like for the Marlins, it did twice, right? Like they made their runs and they had some chances. They did some things with those years when they went all in, and then they went back to being the worst team in Major League Baseball right after that. So, like, I think, unfortunately, you're kind of stuck in a spot with the realities of the sport that you kind of have to do something like that. The being stuck in between and trying to be good all the time equates to you just never being interesting at all.
Yeah, and I guess the other part is it doesn't feel like there's a great wave of hitting prospects in the organization either, right? Like, hey, wait until this guy comes up. Sal Stewart and Cam Collier don't do anything for me at the moment. I'm sorry. Maybe I don't believe in the way they develop players, because it feels like they haven't developed them either.
And we can talk about Burns and Petty and Lauder and some of these names that they have come up in the pitching prospects, but Skinny, we just had a situation where Hunter Green went down and the best they could get was Wade Miley for the moment. So the fact that they're so thin at starting pitching right now too, which coming into the season is the one thing I was really hopeful about for this organization. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot to be hopeful right now, at least for this season, next season, the immediate direction of this team.
And I wonder this, I mean, did Terry Francona come out of retirement being sold a bill of goods that they were going to go maybe all in at some point? Or was this just, you know what, it's a comfort zone job. I like managing. I'm just going to come back to do that. And I think we all got our hopes up that, this was going to be the turnaround. This was going to be the one. And I'm not blaming. I mean, listen, when you're writing down Connor Joe is 6th in your batting order on a day, you ain't got much to choose from, man.
Correct. And last time, to be clear, this is not me taking shots at Terry Francona, because last time people got all mad at me the last time I said something like this, saying I was like taking out on Terry Francona and being unrealistic about what he could do with this team. That's been my whole point since the Reds hired him. he can't do much about this situation if they're not going to give him players, which they're not going to. So all the Reds fans that got so excited about the Reds got Tito and acted like something was going to change, he's an old man who looks at a lineup card and hands it to the umpire, and then after the game tells these millionaires, like, good try. There's not a lot he can actually do. I don't know what people thought, like him yelling at them to run harder to first base was going to change how this team operated or something, or him yelling at them after they got thrown out, making stupid base running blunders was going to change them. That's not how this works at this level. You need talent, you need players, and the Reds simply don't have that. So the whole Terry Francona thing, he was an old man who'd been going through a lot of health issues, in and out of doctor's appointment. He wanted to get back to work. That's why he said yes to the Reds. It wasn't because they had some great situation. It's because that's what old people do when they start feeling irrelevant.
No, that's a fair point.
All right, I have another little topic for you here.
Yes.
Lance McAllister on his show, I caught a show last night on Wednesday night. He put together his Reds all-quarter century team on the air following the Athletics National Project, where they were doing that for all of Major League Baseball. So here's who he picked at each position. And I thought it was an interesting listen on his part. Kudos to Lance for doing it. And I want to get your take on if you would change any of these guys out. So at catcher, he went with Tucker Barnhart. That was an easy one for him. Joey Votto as the first baseman was an obvious one. And Brandon Phillips at second base was an obvious one. Those were kind of like the first three guys I think he had. Then at shortstop, he went Zach Cozart. At third base, he started with Eugenio Suarez, but then landed on Todd Frazier eventually. He went Adam Dunn, left field, Ken Griffey Jr., center field, Jay Bruce in right field. And then starting pitching, he went Johnny Cueto, Luis Castillo, Bronson Arroyo, Aaron Harang, Homer Bailey. And then as his closer, he went Aroldis Chapman, and his manager, Dusty Baker.
That's probably fair. I'd have to look at the years that Frazier played compared to the years Suarez played. I just, in my mind's eye at the moment, without having numbers in front of me, I think I'd pick Suarez over Frazier, to be honest with you.
Well, that's where Lance was at, but then he saw, I think, Frazier had more all-star appearances. He was an important part of two playoff teams where Suarez never played for one. So I think he ended up giving him the weight on some things like that.
I just can't believe Billy Hamilton didn't land on that list. And where is Royce Clayton on that? Or maybe Royce Clayton was pre-2000. I don't know. He could have.
No, I feel like Royce Clayton was definitely in my high school years. That was was definitely post-2000, I would say.
Yeah, that's probably – no, that's probably right. I'm just trying to think of who I could debate. I guess I could debate a little bit because Zach Cozart had some good years and certainly has had a longer period of time. And as goofy as we just talked about Elly, I'm not even so sure Elly wouldn't be in that mix.
Well, and that's the funny thing. Lance kind of dismissed him just because he's like, he only has an X number of at-bats so far in his major league career. He can't be on your all-quarter century team. But when you get done with the list, a couple things jump out to me. One is, this tells you a lot about Reds baseball over the last 25 years, right. and why when you're talking about your best shortstop to choose from is Zach Cozart and like Felipe Lopez. That's the big argument we're having at shortstop over the last 25 years. Kind of tells you where your franchise has been. So I think that definitely jumped out to me. And then the other part was just the lack of competition at some of these spots. I mean, there's not a lot of depth at them, especially what the shortstop one kind of blew my mind. Third base, I didn't think was like the Suarez and Frazier, I guess, are pretty good players. I mean,
what about the salad days of Scooter Gennett?
He was mentioned. He was mentioned as a possible.
I think Brandon Phillips is a no-brainer there.
Yeah, Brandon Phillips is an obvious one. It's him and Votto are the only two that you feel good about, really, when you look at this list.
Yeah, but I will say this: I think Zach Cozart, didn't he make an All-Star team?
Yes.
Frazier made an All-Star team. Tucker Barnhart was a Gold Glove.
Multi-time Gold Glover.
Yep. I mean, Adam Dunn with the power. I mean, you can argue all the strikeouts and the waves that he went, the hot and the colds, but at the end of the day, every season seemed to be a 40 home run season. Yeah, it's hard to argue with any of those. It really is.
So the better question, which people really like during our Bengals Ring of Honor conversation, is what's the inverse of this? What's the route you were just about to take a few minutes ago when you started?
I may have to map that out. That's a good one.
Jason Vossler at first base.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Nick Martini in right.
Who was our guy? Who was our big acquisition from the Cubs that just was an absolute disaster that they paid all the money for? The big boy, the hitter.
I'm drawing. Oh, Jamer Candelario?
No. Before that.
Oh, Mike Moustakas.
Moustakas, yeah.
Yeah, he was a disaster.
Yeah.
Billy Hamilton's probably on that list.
Billy Hamilton's probably in there.
I may have to put that together for next week.
Yeah, we really should. There's some serious names that have come and gone for this Reds organization. Now the problem is remembering some of the guys that have only had like a cup of coffee.
I need to have about a good hour to look through Baseball Reference and come up with some dandy names off that list.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that for maybe next week's show, because I'm sure there'll be no more interesting topics to talk about with the Reds next week.
But can I say this? And I know other teams are dealing. Why are baseball players today seemingly so injured?
It's a legit question. It just feels like guys, maybe they're more cautious than they've ever been with certain injuries. I don't know. Maybe you're investing so much money into these guys, they're just safer about them. But you're right. It seems like constantly guys are just in and out.
I'm going back to guys are just too jacked up.
You need fatleats. Leave them fat.
There's no question.
Too much muscle, too much to tear.
I mean, look, Hunter Green is a jacked up dude. I mean, he is. Are we going to deal with this all the time now with him? We've got
multiple groin injuries
and obliques,
and now he's like talking about the back's bothering him too because of it. That's not good.
Jamer had a bad back that needed a couple of epidurals, CES had a bad back. I mean, I don't know, man. It feels just weird.
I'm with them. I'm dealing with an SI joint issue, hip back thing. I'm going to the chiropractor after this show. It's rough out here.
You're also an older man now, buddy.
You're telling me. I feel it. Let's talk some Bengals, Skinny. There's not a lot going on here, but there was kind of an interesting storyline this week because you guys spent about 10 minutes talking to Jermaine Burton after Tuesday's OTAs. He talked about his rough rookie season. He said he's being mentored by Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and B.J. Hill. Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow have both said good things about his approach this offseason. Are you buying into all of this, or is this just lip service during the offseason because that's what you have to do?
Yeah, so I wrote it more in column form because I wrote another story that day that I found more interesting, but this is interesting too. The day after he got taken in the draft, we didn't have a formal press conference with him. He and Chris Jenkins, the second and third round picks, usually there's a formal press conference. Last year, they just said, hey, we're just going to bring these guys in and you guys can chit chat with them and do that. We're like, that's fine. So they came in the media room separately. And, Jermaine had red flags that had been talked about, why he dropped to the third round, and he answered those questions and seemed forthright and seemed like, he had all his ducks in a row. And I saw he talked the talk back then. And then obviously he didn't walk the walk. I do think this. I approached him about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I wanted to do it in a smaller setting, and I'm not making light of this. I think it would be an interesting story. There was that shot of him in the casino, right, in his pajamas. Not a good look. He's been evicted from his apartment twice, which suggests he doesn't handle money very well, and perhaps he has a gambling problem or had a gambling problem. It feels like, seeing him last year, I wrote this, he looked zombie-like at times last year in the locker room. Like he wasn't there. He looked always tired. And the Jermaine I saw on draft weekend this year when he was in the facility and he shocked all of us as we're in the lunchroom and all of a sudden Jermaine Burton pops in. It's like, wait a minute. And he was kind of conversational. He looked fresh. He looked alive. He's looked that way all through the OTAs. We only get 1 day a week in the locker room and at the practices, but the days we've seen him. So 3 weeks ago, I kind of went up to him and he politely said, no, catch me later. I'm not ready to talk about this yet. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I think in a smaller setting, perhaps he would open up about what he's done to help himself. I don't think it's just the mentoring of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and B.J. Hill. I think he's probably gotten some professional help, and I hope he has, because just from a human being standpoint of it, I'd like to see the guy survive. And from a playing standpoint, if you're a Bengals fan, if you get the best Jermaine Burton possible, I think that still could be a hell of a player in this league.
It's tough to say on that end, right? Like we just don't know. We don't know if he has the IQ for it at this point. I mean, when they start talking about things like you got to get in your playbook and he doesn't know what he's doing out there last year, some of the vibe that they were giving off, and not like media members, but people inside the organization were saying those things publicly. Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor. So that's usually a pretty bad sign for a guy. So I'm fully in the boat of, I'll believe it when I see it with him. Like, wake me up when he actually does something productive from a football standpoint. But from the human being standpoint, this was spiraling the wrong way quickly. When you saw especially the accusations, I know he was never charged with anything, but the whole like assault accusation thing with that young girl was like not good at all. It's like, oh, this guy might be in real trouble here. And now it seems like that's kind of subsided, at least for the time being. Now, I don't want to accuse anything that we don't know about, but a lot of the stuff we're talking about from last year and the difference between what you're describing last year versus this year, zombie-like appearance, all the instability, I mean, almost sounds like a substance abuse type situation.
I don't know, man. If it was gambling related, with the casinos open 24/7, man, and you're chasing losses, that's all you're thinking about. And you walk out of that casino at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're supposed to be there for an 8 a.m. meeting. Hence, he missed a bunch of meetings.
Sure,
missed a couple of key meetings.
And that would be like this. That would be like the same thing, right? Like, I mean, it's an addiction either way. It's controlling your life, and those are kind of similar issues, I think. But I think everyone assumed because of the picture in the casino, everyone assumes it's the gambling thing. But it's like, who knows what all is going on with that? And maybe it's multiple things,
right?
But it's hard for me to believe we're going to get a productive Jermaine Burton that's going to break through as a football player. I do think this could be a great story if he just at least gets his life on stable footing and goes on and has a good normal adulthood.
Yeah, no, again, like I said, I've seen him walk the walk or talk the talk before. Now he's got to walk the walk. I mean, but just from a physical appearance, I mean, again, he looked half dead last year, and now he looks like he's got some life in him. Like, he talks about routines and better routines to get to the facility, and then what he does at the facility. He even talked about, I didn't use the quote, he even talked about hydrating properly, doing stuff to make your body better as a football player. And who knows why he didn't take whatever advice Jamar and T gave him last year. I remember Duke Tobin at the Combine, I pulled the quote out and used it again in this story, talked about how they thought they were putting him in a room with guys that were going to show him the way. I mean, say anything you want about Jamar Chase, those two guys are pros, man. They get themselves ready, both physically, mentally, preparation-wise. Those would be two perfect icons if you're a rookie wide receiver to come in and go, I'm going to do what those two dudes do.
Yeah, and you also wonder if maybe, it's like they thought leading by example was enough, and then this guy wasn't able to get on the right page. And as they saw it spiraling last year, maybe a couple of those guys did reach back out and kind of do a little more hands-on approach of, hey, come with me. Like, you're going to stay with me, or you're going to do this workout with me, or I'm going to come get you up, or whatever it is. It did seem like he mentioned those three guys pretty specifically in this conversation with you media types, to where it was like, well, hopefully they've really helped him out here, because that's a pretty cool part of being a teammate of his as well. It's an interesting situation. I mean, certainly a guy with a lot of talent, and people had a lot of faith in him last year, of the idea of like, oh, maybe the Bengals got a steal. Maybe he will emerge as a number one type talent, and you got him at a discount because people were worried about his baggage. Turned out the baggage was an issue, and we'll see if he can overcome that now. If he can, that'd be a great thing for him. I just don't. Once you go through something like he went through last year, and you already had those issues coming out about you, it's tough for me to just overlook and think, oh yeah, he's going to be fine. This is all. I'll put it all past him.
The only thing I will tell you is, he probably was allowed to get away with some stuff in college that you're not going to get away with in the NFL, right? The talent was just so much as a college player that he could get by on just the talent alone. And, maybe he came in and those guys tried to mentor him, and in his mind, he's like, I've gotten away with talent my whole life. I'm just going to roll out there and ball. That's all I need to do. It doesn't work that way. And then he got caught in whatever spiral he got caught in. And, the Bengals easily could have cut him and no one would have cared. No one. I don't think a single fan would have cared if they'd have cut Jermaine Burton.
I think most people thought they should have.
Yeah, correct. And maybe it was the case of, dude, go get yourself some help. Come back to us. Let's see where things stand. And if we think that you're kind of on the track to turning yourself around, we're going to give you one last final chance. And there's going to be no more. And there's probably going to be no more in the NFL if you mess this up. So take heed. And maybe he has. I hope he has, for his sake.
I mean, this would be like the Mike Brown pet project of his lifetime, right? I mean, he loves these types of guys. Chris Henry was his dude. Pac-Man was his dude.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that the Bengals are giving him extra chances, but hopefully it works out for both parties. Any new thoughts on the Hendrickson Stewart dramas?
I think it's just disappointing. The Bengals are playing this game with Shamar Stewart, trying to make a precedent-setting contract. Don't forget, Demetrius Knight has not signed his contract either. He did sign the waiver, the injury waiver, but again, they're trying to do the same thing with him. I'll be interested when camp comes along if he's not signed what he does, and they're counting on him. Jermaine Pratt's still on this roster, and I think the only reason he is whatever insurance they feel they need until Demetrius Knight signs. And that's the goofy part is Jermaine's not even around, so he hasn't taken part in a single Al Golden defensive scheme rep to this point, and he's your fallback plan potentially. Then Shamar Stewart, say all you want about watching and taking mental reps and doing that's all well and good. He needs to get some actual physical reps. That's what listen, all the rest of them apparently do. That's why they're doing it, right? And he stands and watches, and I'm not blaming him. I just don't know what games they're trying to play here. I really don't.
I'm trying not to get too worked up at this time of the year about things that may not matter in the long run. But Skinny, it just feels like they are trying to self-sabotage this season, unlike any we've ever seen from the Bengals. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense because everyone still believes that they have the goods to compete for a Super Bowl. When you have Joe Burrow and you have the offensive talent they have, people still believe in them. And it feels like they're doing everything they can to make it a bigger question mark than it should be.
I mean, next week is going to be fascinating. Next week is mandatory minicamp. All this other stuff has been optional. Most players obviously have come. The whole thing that set Trey Hendrickson off a few weeks ago was the text that said, don't forget you're subject to fine if you don't come to minicamp. And I'll be fascinated to see if he shows up or he says, to hell with it, I'll find me all you want. Jermaine Pratt's under contract still, right? He hasn't been to any of these OTAs because he feels like he's not a part of it. He wants to be traded.
They're going to start finding Jermaine Pratt too.
They will. I mean, it's a definitive. It's not he will be fined. So it'll be interesting to see if he shows up. They still haven't signed a veteran safety, which still boggles my mind. This offseason has just confounded the living daylights out of me.
It is so strange. And again, when the big storyline coming out of the last 2 years was like, the Bengals got to start faster. They've got to get on track. They need a good offseason. Joe Burrow should be healthy this year. It should be a more normal offseason. And they are turning this offseason into a bigger sideshow circus than any of the previous ones. And they're doing it on their own account. Like, it's not out of their control for the most part.
Yeah. The Trey one, again, we've talked about, we've debated it ad nauseum, but the Shamar one to try to do what they're doing and literally make a precedent-setting contract that they can get out from under in different ways. No, man, that's not no.
Yeah, it's a lot of weird stuff going on. Is there anything else going on with the Bengals that we need to talk about aside from that?
No, I did do a cool story, I thought, this week. And usually when the Bengals, the undrafted free agent class, I try to get to 2 or 3 of them because, like I said, we only get 1 day a week for about a month. Then we get the mini camp. So I try to do some stuff on the UDFAs that they signed because there's always some really good backstories on those guys. And I found a few of them. And one of them is a tight end named Cole Taylor. And I was just, literally, I went to bios of each guy trying to find an interesting nugget if they had one. And Cole Taylor was involved in one of the weirdest penalties in college football history, where he played for LSU. He was tackled by a Florida player. With the score was tied 34-all. Florida was 8-1 at the time. They were in the hunt for a college football playoff appearance. 34-all, 2 minutes to go, 3rd and 10. Cole Taylor takes a check down pass and gets tackled well short of the first down by a Florida player who inadvertently, when he tackled him, I guess his shoe either came off or he pulled it off. Well, he turned and chucked it down the field, which then resulted in 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So I start to look, and I was reading some more about that story. I'm like, no, Florida, Marco Wilson. I went, wait a minute, Marco Wilson. And the Bengals have a cornerback. You may not have heard of him. He came in last year late, a guy named Marco Wilson. Lo and behold, it's the same guy. So I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be good. So I talked to Cole Taylor about it. He was really good. I went up to Marco, and I kind of broke the ice with he did get some first-team reps, and I saw an interesting thing where after Jamar Chase beat him on a route, he went up to Jamar to talk to him, and you could just see he was nodding his head like, okay. And so I talked to him a little bit about that, and I included some of it in the story as well. And I said, man, I'm going to kind of make light of this and make it lighthearted, but I didn't realize you were the guy that ripped off the Cole Taylor shoe. He goes, yeah, it's me. I go, have you talked to him? He goes, what do you mean? I go, he's in the other locker. He's a teammate. He goes, is he really? He goes, I'm going to have to go talk to him. I didn't know he didn't know? So in the Bengals locker room, there's a main locker room, and then we call it the QC nightclub. It's a long story there, but there's an offshoot locker room where when the practice squad players are set. That's where the practice squad players are. But right now, that's where all the UDFAs are, all the undrafted free agents. So Cole Taylor really is out of sight, out of mind for him, probably. And he said, "Yeah." I am going to have to go talk to him. But he was really he gave me a couple good quotes, and then I said, and you know, so anyway, the game-winning field goal was kicked by Cade York, who kicked for the Bengals last year. Odd thing, 57-yarder. There was enough time for Florida to get into field goal range for one Evan McPherson to attempt a 52-yarder that he missed. And I said, "Marco, Evan could have bailed you out." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But you know what?" He goes, "If he makes all his kicks now, it's all for the money. I'm good with it." I'm like, all right. So he was good. He was really
That's pretty good. Yeah. How about that?
I thought as soon as I went to that part of the conversation with him, he's going to give me this look like, man, I ain't talking about that. And he was actually very good about it.
I think these guys, I mean, like once you're past that stage, in the moment, it feels like it's important because you've got a coach that's mad at you and stuff. But once you're in the NFL making millions now, you don't care about that.
Well, I did ask. I said, "What led you to throw the shoe, though?" He's
fired up.
He said, "Well," he goes, "it was an emotional thing. I just made a big stop. It's my last game in the swamp." And he said, "I looked down. He goes, I got a purple and gold shoe in my hand. I don't want the damn thing." And he said, "I just threw it."
I love that. That was one of those plays where it was like, you could kind of, I know everyone thought it was such a stupid thing for him to do, and it was, but like in the moment, it was one where I was like, I kind of get that. Like you're all fired up. You happen to have a dude's personal belonging in your hands after you just more or less murdered him on the field. Like, it was a big play. Throwing the shoe felt like kind of like, I get how that could happen accidentally, right? It's kind of like when the guy does the pull up on the rim after the insane dunk. You're like, stupid, but I kind of get that.
Yeah, no, Cole Taylor, he said he didn't even know his shoe was taken off. He said, all of a sudden I put my foot in the ground. He goes, I felt a cold ground. I looked down and my shoe's gone. Then I see flags flying. I look up, my shoe's all the way down the field.
Yeah. I don't remember. Did he get up and like push and shove after that? Or I
don't think so. The clip I saw kind of cuts to the flags being thrown and then the referee calling the penalty. And so I don't think, I even said, I said, "Was there bad blood in the game?" He goes, "No." He goes, "There wasn't even a lot of smack talk going on." He goes,
"Hell, they didn't even know about each other, clearly."
Right, so. Correct. Yeah, correct.
All right, let's get into Ask Skinny Anything. The NBA Finals start tonight, Skinny. The Thunder are a huge favorite at minus 650. The Pacers are the underdog, plus 475. What are your thoughts? Any value there on the Pacers? Do you think they have a chance?
I don't. So after we got done coaching last night, we had a couple summer games. We all had the kids in a huddle, and one of our assistant coaches is a huge Pacer fan. He grew up in Indiana. He goes, "Tomorrow night, boys, Pacers going to start rolling." And everybody's like, "Come on, coach." And one kid just blurts out, "OKC in 5, man." And I'm like, that sounds about right to me.
I don't know. I mean, the Pacers were supposed to be beaten every step of the way so far. I don't know that they're going to win, but I think they have a chance to make this a series.
I'm going okay. Okay. When the one kid said OKC in 5, I'm like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be shocked by that, but minus 650 feels too heavy for me. I don't think they're that big of a favorite.
Yeah, if I was, because I think in some places you can do specific props of how many games the series is going to go and who wins. I think I'd find the OKC in 5 prop if I could.
Okay. All right. Here's our Connor Joe question, Skinny.
Oh, my Lord.
How many pitches could Skinny throw against Reds outfielder Connor Joe before giving up a home run?
I think I could get by with, I'd probably throw submarine style just to throw him off.
I love that. And to keep your shoulder intact.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I think I could get by with 3 to 5. I think Connor Joe would be so out in front of some of my stuff, he'd pop a bunch of stuff up.
That's what I was going to say. I think it takes more than that because I think for major league hitters to hit like a 60 mile an hour fastball or a 55 mile an hour fastball, that would take a little time to adjust to. It's like hitting a slow pitch softball or something for them.
And that was my one detriment when I tried to play college baseball is I just didn't have a good arm. I had a serviceable arm for where I played. And like in high school, I would play where the pitchers pitch. So I'd play some second, some short, some third, a couple outfield spots. And when I played shortstop, I couldn't play very deep. When I played third, I'd play even with the bag. I just didn't have enough of an arm. I envy those guys who just effortlessly can throw. I mean, I had to go out just to gun one. So I know I couldn't blow one by him. I do think I could get him with a couple of spinners on submarine stuff.
What was like your peak velocity when you were a pitcher in your pro?
I don't know. I didn't pitch. So
well, I mean, your throwing speed, I should say.
I don't think we ever did it. I'm not even sure I know what my high school teammate pitchers threw. I think one guy went to Miami and pitched, Miami of Ohio. He was probably, if I was to guess, 87. But back then, 87 was considered.
Humming it. I mean, that's humming it in high school, regardless of then, now, anytime.
Yeah.
Everyone acts like they throw 90 miles an hour, but if you see a high schooler actually throwing 85, it looks like 100.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. So you think you're above 60, right? You're probably in the 60, 70 range? Or?
Yeah, I'd say probably in the high 60s, low 70s.
What do you think you could hum it up there now at your age?
It's a good question. I'm just now getting back to throwing chest passes after breaking the elbows. So,
that's right.
I have to soft toss first. I got to see how that would what the torque that would do to a former broken elbow. I don't know. I actually have a last checkup with my doctor 2 weeks from tomorrow, and I may have to ask him what if I had to cut loose, could I? He's actually a former college pitcher himself. A
lot of scar tissue piled up in there that you guys have to work through.
Dude, this stuff pops constantly nowadays.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. All right, so you're going with a handful of pitches.
And by the way, I realized that was an indictment on Connor Joe, by the way.
Yeah, yes, I think it was. Rank these Cincinnati sports venues by atmosphere. Okay. Paul Brown Stadium, Great American Ballpark, Nippert Stadium, Fifth Third Arena, Cintas Center.
Man, I love the Cintas Center. I think the environment at the Cintas Center is always I think the students are great. Fifth Third's the students at Fifth Third are really good too.
It's gotten way better.
Nippert, when things were going well late in the Luke Fickell tenure, was awesome. I can remember going to actually a UC Wisconsin actually came down to play in the late 90s. And it was a great crowd because Wisconsin then was really, really good. They had Ron Dane, if you remember Ron Dane, the running back. And actually UC upset him that day. That atmosphere that afternoon was awesome. I was there as a fan, and I thought that was great. I'm in such a to me, the thing with Paycor is it feels like there's so much ginned up from the Jumbotron to get the crowd to react. It all feels very staged to me.
Yes. I don't think it's a good atmosphere personally. Even over the last several years where Bengals fans have been really into it, I don't think it's an electric atmosphere.
I will say I did think the Raiders playoff atmosphere and just the reaction of the fan base after Jermaine Pratt had that interception was you could feel that. And I think that was just everybody.
Would be anywhere any stadium in America would feel that way on a play like that, though.
Well, I think there was more to it than that, too, right? Because it broke the playoff drought. It was a hell of a game, and for it to end the way it ended, your guys making a stop with an interception certainly added to the excitement of it. That was real. And I will say, 2 years ago when the Reds were making that run, there's no question Great American Ballpark was a fun place to be.
Yeah, GABP actually, I think, provides a great atmosphere if the Reds can ever be interesting enough for the fans to show up. Because the fans will show up, and they will get into it, and it's a cool stadium for it.
Yes.
But we just never get to see it like that.
Right. More times than not, it's 8,000 to 10,000 people, and that can't be an atmosphere. So I'll rank them. Okay. I'll go Cintas number one. Maybe it's just because it's just a smaller venue. I don't know. And maybe because I go to more games as a fan. My buddy's a season ticket holder, so I probably go to 3 to 5 games a year there as a fan. I went to one UC basketball game this year, was the Kansas game, and the atmosphere there was great that day. I thought it was fantastic. It was outstanding. So I'll go Cintas 1, Fifth Third 1A, and skip down to Nippert 3, Paycor 4, Great American Ballpark 5.
I think I would flip Nippert and Fifth Third. I think Nippert's awesome. Nippert might actually be number one overall for me. When that place is rocking, that's hard to beat.
Yeah, I can't get over the parking. That's the only thing.
That's true.
I know that has nothing to do with the atmosphere. I realize that.
I never have to deal with that really because I've always been covering stuff there for the most part. So I'm always there so early. It's that's not really an issue. But I remember when it was Gamble's stuff. He used to, and occasionally they would be on nationally televised games. I guess ESPN would have them or whatever. Yes. There was one year I covered one of those games, and I'm pretty sure it was Elder playing in it. And I'm telling you, the ground was rocking. You could feel it when you're on the field. The place was shaking at Nippert for a high school football game. And I was like, this is pretty incredible. You know?
No, it is. It's a good atmosphere. No question.
Yeah. What position? Oh, another athletic question about your prime. What position would Skinny have played in football in his prime?
I would have been an option quarterback, a wing back, or a safety.
You have enough speed to turn the corner there as the wing back?
Well, I'd be more of a blocker, receiver type wing back.
Yeah, I was thinking you'd come around on the end around there, in the option offense.
Yeah, I will tell you, man. We used to have some epic pickup football games there's a big field at St. Agnes. You know St. Agnes, right? St. Agnes.
Oh yeah, of course.
Church. There's a big field behind that. We used to have some epic pickup football games, and I could run the option in my day now.
Oh yeah, I believe that. Like a young Eric Crouch.
I had a favorite play where again, you didn't go from under center, right? It was always a shotgun snap.
Wait, you guys actually snapped it?
Yeah, we'd have like 8-on-8 games. This wouldn't be like 3-on-3s. We'd have 8-on-8, sometimes.
But even still, don't you just stand there with the ball and yell hut and go?
No, we'd snap it.
That's big time.
So
then what? The guy blocks?
I came up with a favorite option play where I had split backs. We'd take one step to the right, and we would all reverse pivot, go back to the left. The one guy would end up being the lead blocker, and then I'd have my trail back. And for whatever reason, that always threw the defense off.
I mean, I'm trying to get over the image of like 8-on-8 football with offensive and defensive lines as grade schoolers. Like we were just doing 7-on-7 basically all times. No matter how many guys you had, we were just playing all receivers and defensive backs.
So we had a guy, and honestly, he should have played high school football. I'll call him by name. His name was Joe Wolking. We called him Hippo. He was just a big guy who could fly, and he could fly. So for whatever reason, he was on my team one afternoon, and the guy who was quarterbacking, I wasn't quarterbacking that day. I was playing receiver, I guess. And he said, "Does anybody know how to do a trap block?" And I said, I've never done one, but I know how to do one. He goes, "Let's run a trap play for Hippo." And I made a perfect trap block on a guy, and I could just feel Hippo go flying on by for like an 80-yard touchdown. So yes, we even trap blocked in these games.
I'm so disgusted by all of this, but the fact that you guys had Hippo Joe out there and you thought he should be used for blocking purposes instead of just handing the ball to him like a rugby running back the entire game.
Yeah, maybe, but he was impossible to tackle.
I would argue
he was the one guy you didn't want to try to tackle on the other team.
Exactly. That's my point. That's in grade school pickup football game with no pads. The biggest, fastest guy is the guy you give the ball to.
Oh yeah.
Like doesn't matter if he's the running back. It's like they're not taking him down. Just flip it to Hippo Joe. He's going to score every time.
Every time.
The whole idea of this pickup situation that you guys had going on is just absolutely blowing my mind right now. Like I'm trying to envision how many guys would stay in and block and rush the passer. Probably
2 or 3, and then of course you could use one blitz every 4 downs, so you had to watch out for the blitz too.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if you had a blitz, would the guy have to stand there and count still, even though there were blockers?
Yeah, I think we did count. We counted. It was either 2 Mississippi or 3 Mississippi, and then you could rush the passer. But you had guys in the block too.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty wild. I think the best athletes. I actually believe this. The best athletes that like we never got to see or never uncovered were the fat kids that we played with like growing up that were studs.
Yeah.
That just never cared to get themselves in shape. Were never like going to do the things they need to do. But there are so many dudes like sounds like Hippo Joe might have been one of them. Who were just like
he could fly for his size.
Yeah, and like I have a cousin who maybe didn't have the measurables, but like just a big guy, over 300 pounds now, but always just had exceptionally quick feet. And I was just like, the way you could move laterally, the way you could sprint, it's always like, if that guy ever just decided to like start hitting the weights hard and got like big and bulky instead of just big, he would be a freak athlete. I think there are a million untold stories out there like that. There's not the crack dealers in the hood that never got out, that made it, that they talk about that was like the next Michael Jordan. Right. It's those guys that were just fatleets. All right, last one, Skinny. The McDonald's Snack Wrap is coming back next month, July 10th, the release date for the snack wrap. They were removed from most menus in 2016 and fully discontinued in 2020. How excited are you for the McDonald's snack wrap?
I loved the McDonald's snack wrap. The chicken that was in that snack wrap back in the day, I thought was just, that was I don't know why that was a perfect combination, but it just was.
Yeah, they had good ranch in it. It was just a right size, right price point.
Yes.
Perfect fast food item.
It's funny, man. If you gave me the McDonald's items, I'd probably rank in order of eating. The McRib would be like in a category of its own. It's my favorite by far. And then the snack wrap's probably second.
Yeah, snack wrap's great. I agree with that. It's probably that might be my favorite McDonald's menu item of all time. I'm not a big McDonald's guy.
That's a good one. Yeah, the only thing I usually get at McDonald's anymore is occasionally if I haven't eaten during the day and I just need something, I'll just go get a thing of fries, and that's about it.
Their shakes are pretty good. I will say
Their
that.
shakes have always been good. Yes, they have always been good.
I do like the shake. And Jim Kelch, my broadcast partner, is a big McDonald's shake guy. So occasionally during the winter, we'll get those on the roads during basketball season, believe it or not.
But not like a burger to go with it or anything, just a shake?
Yeah, we never really eat at McDonald's. We always eat somewhere else. We'll just hit that for dessert, like, at 9 p.m. when we're driving to Detroit or something.
Yeah, Arby's has good shakes too.
Oh, really? Never tried theirs.
Yeah, Arby's has good shakes.
I was told after our discussion about Gold Star's burgers on last week or the week before show, someone told me they have great shakes. I've never tried their shakes.
Well, I've got one literally right outside my neighborhood. I mean, I could walk to the Gold Star from my house within probably 8 to 10 minutes. I may have to hit that up for a shake then at some point.
Supposedly they have good shakes. I can't vouch for that, but someone told me that after our show last week. They said, "Hey, you had their shakes."
I was going to say, I'll get a chocolate shake. It would be hard in my mind to mess one up. I think there's some that can be better than others, right? They are for sure. I mean, I think UDF, I love UDF shakes. They're still the best to me.
I love UDF, period.
But to me, like I said, it's hard to mess up a chocolate shake, but I'll see if it passes the test of like being in the wow category.
All right, get back to us. That's all we got.
Brother. Good stuff. Thanks as always. We'll be back next week. For Rick Broering, I'm Richard Skinner. It's been the Skinny Podcast, the weekly potpourri edition, presented by Blake, the Attorney Maislin.